can have a change of opinion every day, Robert.
Well, his big line was, "I'm not going to go see the doctor if my EKG is all over the place." When the president, or whatever his official title is, of the head of the Gallup poll fired back with, "Well, wouldn't your doctor be able to tell you what has your EKG going all over the place? Like, you should be concerned with that." Because it has not been a stable approval rating for the past couple months.
No, and my problem is not that they just completely shrug off the low number and say, well, we're not going to pay attention to it. But Robert Gibbs is the same person when, as soon as Obama took office, he was just heralding the Gallup poll, saying, look at these great numbers. 80% of the country approves of what we're doing. We need to get stuff done. You can't do that. If you're going to say this is a good poll, you can't just change it when it doesn't support you. And instead of getting upset about why they're not being approved, they're saying why the approval rating's dropping. They're saying there's something wrong with your data. No,
which is ridiculous, because Gallup poll is one of the most credible. If it is not one of, it is the most credible poll in the nation. It's about 60 years old, but if they always get it right, they are very rarely that far off.
Yeah, and it's just they're stuck in this whole thing of Obama before his inauguration, during the campaign trail, where it's, if you didn't agree with him, you were wrong. And like he was almost divine in that sense, that either you're going to agree with us or you're wrong. The same thing with the election polls were like that. Just no, the data is wrong. No, people just don't approve of him. And people don't, I mean, they expect that everyone approves of him, and if they don't, then the data's wrong.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But what's interesting is I've watched a lot of experts, talk about this, and one thing that everybody from both sides is so shocked about is there's never been a White House, first of all, that has ever attacked a pollster. Number two, Gallup. And number three, why are they attacking so many news? Like, they attack Fox News. They just attack these people who disagree with them, exactly like what you said. And then last week with the whole couple with, what do they call this one? White House Gate or something.
That's so
one of
sick
those
gates.
Thousands of gates. And the two people who snuck into the White House, one reporter was asking some questions about why the head of the party planner for the White House, was in the party and not running it. And here's a clip of how Press Secretary Gibbs responded. It's a fairly long clip, but here it is.
Was there a concern in this White House that she came out being, some might have called her the belle of the ball, overshadowing the First Lady at the beginning?
I don't know who some are. I've never heard that.
Well, it's been bantered around Washington, and it's been in circles, Democratic circles as well as Republican circles, high-ranking
April,
people.
that's not a station I live in life.
As well.
No,
Would you answer the question, please?
Are you done speaking so I can?
Oh, yes, I'm done.
Excellent.
Yes.
I've not heard any of that criticism. I've not read any of that criticism. The President, the First Lady, and the entire White House staff are grateful for the job that she does, and think she has done a terrific and wonderful job pulling off a lot of big and important events here at the White House.
Did she invite herself to the state dinner, or was she a guest of did the President invite her, or did she put her name? No, that's a real question. Do not fan it off. I'm serious. No, seriously. No. Did she invite herself, or did the President ask her? Her name is on that list, and social secretaries are the ones who put the names on the list.
Right.
Did she invite
was she
herself,
at the dinner? April, calm down. Just take a deep breath for 1 second. I see. This happens with my son. He does the same thing. No.
Don't play with me.
I'm not.
I'm being serious.
I'm giving you a serious answer. Was she at the dinner? Yes. She's the social secretary. She had the primary secretary. She had the primary secretary for running the dinner. I'm going to get back to weightier topics like 98,000 men and women in Afghanistan. Jonathan, take us away.
All right, April, please forgive me if I ask this question.
All right, so was that a little inappropriate?
Yeah, that was definitely inappropriate. Something needs to be said about Gibbs' unprofessionalism with the reporters in the room. She was asking a legitimate question, and he should have just answered it and not insulted her by comparing her to his son.
There have been so many reports since the beginning of this presidency with him, and he's just very unprofessional. And I think it just shows a deep problem with the way that this administration is running their press. I mean, the way they're running their interactions with the press. You mentioned just before the clip that they're attacking Gallup, they're attacking a pollster. There was highly publicized them attacking Fox News. Mm-hmm. They're the polar opposite of the Bush administration, where the Bush administration didn't care what anybody thought about anything. And these guys live
I mean,
and
the Bush
die.
administration isolated themselves to only Fox News
Right.
and News Corp sources, but they did not ever attack.
Well, that's
another,
the point. Is
yeah.
the point is that they didn't really care what anyone else thought, and now this administration wants you to only say good things about them. Otherwise, they'll go out and attack you. And it's just
It's fundamentally against journalism.
it's against journalism, and it's just a waste of your resources. You didn't win a landslide election. The entire country isn't going to like you. You can't.
I don't consider a 51% popular vote. I think that's
like
what
51
it was.
and 52.
Yeah, 51 or 52, a mandate of any kind.
Yeah, and they're spending so much of their resource and political capital on this to just. It doesn't matter if they like you or not. You are in control, and you have you have both houses or both.
Well, both houses, both sections of Congress.
And you could. Why do you care what people think about you that much? I mean, you should care about your constituents and everything, but you shouldn't go on the offensive against people.
I wouldn't phrase it as caring what people think about you as much as you should recognize that criticism will come and accept it and actually listen to it, as opposed to assuming, oh gosh, they must have completely gotten it wrong, or they have a bad foundation to work from, something like that. Maybe you're actually at fault.
Yeah.
They need to consider that.
If anyone's acting like a child, it's Robert Gibbs.
And he's just focusing on the petty issues, and he needs to focus on a larger base.
Yeah, and he just was just completely rude to her, and then just, well, I'm going to talk about something more witty. 97,000 people is witty, I guess.
I just thought it was very unprofessional and unnecessary.
And these are coming out more. I would not be surprised if Robert Gibbs doesn't make it through President Obama's first term.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say it's one of the hardest jobs to have in the administration. However, I do not think he has handled himself, like you guys have said, very professionally in front of the press. Because even when you saw the Bush administration went through like 4 or 5 press secretaries, but you never saw them that. I mean, a couple they had their incidents, but nothing like this.
Not like this. Not this often.
Yes, exactly. But all right, we're gonna go to a break. We'll be back right after this to talk about how Culver is seeking some budget changes.
Welcome back to Informavores. Got your weather here for you. It's still crappy out. It is snowy and windy. It's 10 degrees, but it feels like -9.
Oh my god.
Yes,
That's a little brisk.
22 mile an hour wind. That is ridiculous.
We have a window here, and the snow is going sideways.
It is something to see. Tomorrow the low is, or tonight the low, I'm sorry, is 3 below. Tomorrow a high of a balmy 13. The low of 2. So it is not going to get any better. Anyway, well, let's keep the show rolling here. And Governor Culver is trying to seek a change in the budgeting process that has some people upset. When he makes his budget, he's required by law to use the December of the previous fiscal year. Well, this year, for when he's making his next budget, he has to use this December's numbers in terms of revenue to make his budget. Now, the lawmakers in the legislature are also required to use the December figures, although the lawmakers also invoke a provision that allows them to consider the March figures if they're higher. Now, Culver says he doesn't think it's fair that he has to make this when the lawmakers can go above that, and that's how we end up with some of these deficits, because the March numbers are different than the December numbers, and yada, yada, yada. And some people in the state legislature are upset because they think that he's trying to mess with the balance of power. So let's start. Do you guys think they should both be required to use the same number, or should the legislator be allowed to use the March numbers if they are higher?
I think they should be allowed to use the numbers, just for the fact that if they have different numbers and they say different things, you don't want to use the numbers just because it's mandated that way. If it will be more accurate, why not use those numbers?
Exactly. You have to think about you have to forget about politics when it comes to budget stuff, because this goes on in the federal level too. Nobody trusts the executive accountants. It's all about Congressional Budget Office, because the Congressional Budget Office gets it right. So you have to pick the right numbers. I mean, this is state money. This is tax dollars. Why play around with it?
Well, should not the governor and the legislature be able to use them both?
Yeah.
So
I see no problem with that.
Yeah, so I think if he changes his argument, why not just use the March numbers? I think, why can't he use the March numbers also? I mean, there's no point. I mean, you're one government. You want all of your members on the same page. Why not all use the same numbers? This is how people fudge the numbers and get around, earmarking stuff and getting all these huge deficits because they're using different numbers than the person that's across from them, I just don't understand.